Iko Nini. Lately kuna vile TZ imekuwa ikitake headlines za Kenya, but of course Kenya is still Kenyaing. Ruto kuna vile alikuwa amefika Masai za Qatar, alafu in the process akaamua kuengage Kenyans in the diaspora. And I think there's one thing that I always feel like the president does not understand. I think there's no one who's against a new airport. I think people were against Adani, and we were against Adani because of the history that we know of Adani. Adani have been accused of corruption, tax evasion, and stock manipulation. So let's try and imagine Adani show up in Kenya and they end up on NSE. And what happens? They lie to people to invest, alafu steal from the investor. So that's what we were against. But I don't think there's any Kenyan who's against a new airport. But I don't think the president also wants to admit that there's no rational Kenyan who's against a better JKIA. Because JKIA is embarrassing. Me onye nishaisemaga, like, how many times have I said? Anyone who's watched IKONINI long enough knows that I associate JKIA with undergarments. Which sort of undergarments? Hauja watch long enough. Wacha tusikize Ruto akiwa Masai za Qatar.
And we need to build a new airport. Tuache upuzi. We need to build a new airport. Friends, honestly, sasa ile kitu yetu iko hapo JKIA, canvas iko kwa runway. Sasa tunaongea nini? And you see, there are some people defending. No, you see, Ruto anataka kuuza airport. Mimi nataka niuze airport, niende nifanyie kitu gani?
I don't think watu wanafikiri wanataka kuuza airport. Na pia wakimaanisha wanataka kuuza airport, we don't mean literally. We mean you're trying to make money from the whole process. And that's why, because Adani was shady. Adani was shady as unajua. So unatry to make money from that. That's what we had a problem with. No one, as I keep saying, no rational Kenyan is against an airport. But wacha tuendelee.
You know, Qatar here is building an airport in Rwanda under the same framework. Are we together? So I had a conversation with the Emir today, and we have put on the table what we are going to do with our airport, what are we going to do with Kenya Airways, and all the other things. Because, you know, the kind of investment we need kwa hiyo airport yetu is possibly almost 200 billion Kenya shillings. We don't have to put our money. We have money in the private sector that can do it.
So we have money in the private sector that can do it. And I actually think so. And actually think a lot of Kenyans would be interested in investing. Shida yetu ya Kenya, I think, wagani the corruption. We know that if you say it's going to cost 200 billion, it's going to end up costing 500 billion. Najua, that's happened with the SGR. Tuliona how SGR ended up being inflated. It's happened with the Bunge Towers. So we know that these things never cost what they're supposed to cost. They always end up costing more. Why? Because there's a lot of thieving that happens. So there's no one, I need to repeat this for the, I don't know, a millionth time. There's no one who's against an airport. People are just against who's creating the airport, who's building the airport, who's improving the airport, and what sort of terms and conditions are involved in it. And Historia Airport and a lot of stuff that Ruto is doing keep showing me that tusipokuwa rada 2027 tusipotokea kwa wingi kuznachikia sana cheza. I think paka IBC wako zile za iko nene 100,000 people out of the possible 6.3 million have registered as voters. Hatuko serious. But sasa still, it come to Ruto, you never know what his intention. I think that's one of the things that the president struggles with. When we look at him, we don't see a president who's fighting for the country. We see an individual who's fighting for his own individual interest. Because he'll say some things and you're there wondering. Kama ilikuwa ni last week, they ended up saying that logging in this country should be legal. And when they said that, you're there like, this country, ni mara ngapi? Mi nishaka kwa hiki. Tini kabla hata historia logging ianze. So hakuna mse atasema tina, I'm just saying this to criticize the president. How many times have I said that? We have very few trees in Kenya. Like, I've never understood why unasikia garaya za majuzi kisema that Africa is a jungle. so very few trees huku, very few animals. Na chikigima place kama kina Australia unapatana ki animal kwa mlango yako. Sisi hata tukiachana na hiyo story, sisi miti place kama Nairobi tayari ni desert. Unasikia bado tunaingia ndani ya Karura, kuharibu Karura. Alafu sasa tumebring back logging, and as we brought back logging, I had not even looked at it critically till kasikia Gachagua kibonga juu yake. Na hapa ndio utapata raya iko kwa nini believe kile Gachagua amesema. It makes sense. Wacha tusikize.
The only things you have succeeded, William Ruto, is abducting young people, killing young children, stealing everything. Sasa amefungua factory ya furniture Eldoret. So amesema msitu ifunguliwe ndio watu wakate miti wapeleke kwa factory yake. Everything is about him. Yeah? Yeah? Sindio? Yeye anataka to destroy the Mau forest because he has opened a factory ya furniture. So he is saying no imported furniture. Furniture yote itatoka kwa factory yake na miti itatoka kwa misitu yetu. So he wants to destroy all our forest, the whole ecosystem, and destroy it.
Atiki, I don't know how true this is, but it makes sense. I've never seen any Kenyans come out and say that the fact that we've banned logging has affected the price of rice in China in their lives. And hakuna sijaisikia Mkenya kama hiyo. So when I hear such things that a president is legalizing logging, and then nisikie his former deputy talking like this, actually I'm like, it makes sense, because the other story makes no sense. Hii nchi haina miti za kutosha, mtu asikudanganye. Nikuwa chiki kuna mselikuwa niambia like, mwaf, Nairobi kuna miti. Nairobi haina miti jo. Buda, unaendaga hizi countries za majuu na notice kuna miti kibao. Like hata majuzi trip nilikuwa nimechapa ya Cape Town. Naangalia Cape Town jo, niko like, damn, hii place ni so developed, it's such a city. And then even as much as it's such a city like that, nature iko kila pahali. Like big trees, what. Nairobi kuna places unaingiaga hautaona hata mti moja. Saizi ingia hapo Juja Road, ukienda hivyo Mathare manini, uone utakaunti ni miti ngapi utapata between Mathare na whatever ukienda hivyo. It's just crazy. And now the president is there like, you know what, tuna need ku wacha tuendelee.
Mambo amefungua factory ya chuma. Ndio sasa anaweka mambo ya affordable housing. Amefungua factory ya tiles. This man is in every field ya biashara. Amechukua biashara yote Kenya. Mpaka matatu amechukua na watoto wake.
Oh shit, sikuwa nafikiri mood. Mood itapata like one of those. Kama ujuagi juu ya mood. Yes, mood is how the president's son decided to invest part of his father's billions. Okay.
Sasa Sasa katika huko Mara ameweka hoteli. Aposeli, he is demanding from Governor Lenku 400 acres aweke hoteli. Huko Samburu National Park ameweka. This man has taken over all businesses and driven kila mfanyibiashara out of business.
So kitu nashindwa because all these stories are plausible. All these stories that he wants 400 acres, he wants hii story vile tumeanza kuencroach kwa nini za wildlife. Nashindwa nazo. Like right now nasemekana kuna hoteli inaundwa katikati ya Karura Forest, and these are all the things that make me really worry about 2027. Because if that gap is not big enough, that gap needs to be so big. Kama gap ya 2002, like the gap was so big that there was nothing that Moi could do. And this time, if the gap is not that big, then you're going to have another very tricky time. And this is the time that a lot of Kenyans are going to learn that protesters are just protesters. For a very long time, umekuwa shielded in your small cocoon, thinking that those people protesting are talking shit. If we don't make sure that we come out in large numbers, if the gap is too small, it's going to be manipulated. That's the Kenyan way. and what's going to happen, watu wataenda kwa streets and you're going to see kuwa Ruto pia anaweza kuwa na suluhu. Okay, so yeah, that's what's happening, but still tukistick na history ya Ruto, one of the other things that he talked about was remittances, and remittances of course raya zile zinapendaga kunienjoy juu ya LemFi. Yes, that's part of remittances, and alikuwa anasema that the costs need to go down, and that of course is a good thing. Najua like the cost needs to go down because Kenyans wakiwa out there, they're trying to support family back home, and what ends up happening is sometimes the costs can be so high that msana try kuhelp anashindwa jo iko nene, like why am I helping like this? So wacha tusikize come to story remittances, what the president said.
We are working as a government to see how we can reduce the cost of you sending money back home, remittance. We know that it costs anywhere between 5 to 10% of the money you send. And if you look at the amount of money that comes to Kenya, it's about $5 billion. If you do 5% of $5 billion, it's colossal. It's huge money. It can make a big difference.
Damn. Okay, sikuwa najua hivyo. Like, it's a lot of money, man. 5 billion, that's around 650 billion Kenyan shillings. Damn, that comes from outside. And what ends up happening, man? Like, a lot of corruption and a lot of bullshit that ends up happening. And this is the reason why this country never reaches the level it needs to reach. This country, it's actually self-sufficient. We don't need the loans, we don't need the what. Of course, when you ukisema hivyo unasikia ati this is what, but it's actually true. We don't need all those loans and everything. It's just that we've created this environment where politicians have to benefit, and since they have to benefit, they end up stealing. And yes, that's what, like, we end up seeing the nonsense that happens. And these politicians are also full of shit, because I feel like a lot of them don't even understand their jobs. So saizi kile ina happen ni kuna by-election inakuja ya Homa Bay, hizo masai za Homa Bay, then Kasipul specifically. Why? Because the other Kasipul guy, the one who was watu walikuwa wanasema he was super violent, that one alienda pa akiumishwa pamba. So now son wake ana run, and what does the governor do? The governor ends up saying the same stakeholder bullshit that ODM claims to stand against, and that is she has to be given an MP who's friendly to her. Otherwise, that constituency will get no development. In any decent democracy, that statement is enough for you to get impeached. Acheki. And this is the sad thing. Nikisikia gaso kibonga juu ya age, because kuna a lot of ageism in Kenya where we say we need young people to do this, young people to do that. In politics, this is a young woman. This is someone in her 40s reasoning like one of those clowns wa post-independence wale walipatiwa kwa inchi, instead of a develop inchi wakamua go for their own personal wealth. Wacha tumsikize.
Hakuna. Mimi nimekuwa mbunge miaka 10, nimekuwa gavana sasa. Kama kuna mbunge ambaye hafanyi kazi na mimi, atakuwa na maendeleo chache sana kupelekea watu wake. Kwa hivyo mkichagua mbunge haelewani na gavana, nyinyi mtakuwa upinzani.
Sikia. This is a young leader. The country jo waganashindwa na mafala. You don't win people over like that. You don't win people through threats. This is the same shareholder nonsense that we used to hear and we used to be against. All of a sudden, now, since you are the one who's doing it, now all of a sudden now it's good. Najua, he is threatening people that if you didn't vote for me, then hauna shares hapa, then hauna, najua, like, hii nchi jo, the more you think about it, man, this country can really piss you off. Iko Nini, nimeinterrupt show kukuremind you LemFi. Kama uko US ama Canada na unataka kutuma do Kenya, register kwa LemFi ukitumia promo code Iko Nini. Hii itakuguarantee $20 cashback on your first $100 transaction. Alafu pia time una register, make sure umetick the 2 checkboxes za notifications ndio ukireceive info about amazing offers through newsletters. Na pia usijali, LemFi hawatumagi hizi letters za, yani unajua, like ma messages za kipumbavu. Pia usisahau, every time una transact $50 and above una earn points. Na the more una transact, the more points you earn and you can redeem them as cash ile time unatuma pesa. Alafu pia kitu nanibamba kabisa ni saizi ukitumia LemFi mzabaki umelipa pay bills na till numbers directly. That means mzabaki umehandle bills za maparo wako ukiwa hizo maside za States ama maside za Canada. Alafu pia we mwenyewe as a LemFi user baki umetafuta ile button imeandikwa get USD $20, ubaki umeinvite mabeste zako, na ukiinvite mabeste zako on the first $100 transaction unapata pesa ngapi? $20 cashback. So unangoja nini? Baki umechangamka, ingia LemFi. LemFi, international payments for everyone. Iko Nini. Because what else has happened? Kuna hii video iko ina go round ile inakuonyesha like the state of this country. Na hii video ni kuna msee alibaki amerecord, na after kuirecord so ni karau fulani yuko kwa gari na yuko kwa gari na dere, and she's being recorded. I don't know if she didn't see the camera. And she just shows you how corruption works in this country. And I'm sure udem ama mother, like her job is safe kabisa. But yeah, wacha tusikize.
Shambele yangu.
Na hapa ni watu watatu, twende tuone kama utapata.
Nakwambia
watu watatu nimepeleka.
Sasa nakwambia already kuna gari 3 zimefikisha mbele yangu.
Ndio, na sasa nimekuwa na wewe hapa. Nimekuwa na wewe hapa.
Shida yako ni pesa ngapi? Nataka pesa ngapi?
Yes.
Nataka pesa ngapi?
Kama gani?
Nataka pesa ngapi?
Hapa hujaongea na wenzako, mnataka pesa ngapi hapa?
Wacha kuongelea story ya wenzangu kuongea. Mimi kuongea
na 50.
Leta 50. For no reason. Hivyo tu.
For no reason. Usilete twende.
Okay, nakuulizaje? Mimi naona gari bado zinashikisha mbele yangu.
Nasi wanadili na wao.
Nani? Naona uko peke yako.
Sisi niko peke yangu, kwani uone maskari wako huko mbele? Hata ma civilians wako huko mbele?
Civilians.
Unaona askari huko mbele, hata wa civilian mwenye ako na radio gadget?
Alipea msini.
For no reason.
So hii place ilikuwa interesting because mother anapatiwa her corruption money and anarudisha mpaka change. Hii country yetu inakuwaga sad because these are the little things that we never look at and see why. Because you'll find the same Kenyans, when we go to other societies that respect rules, we actually end up respecting rules. So it shows that this thing that we assume is innate, it's not innate in us. It's just something that it's because of the environment that we are in. So in this environment, we know that politicians are bribed and everyone is bribed, and so we've come to accept that bribes are normal. But in situations whereby we go to other environments and these things are illegal, what happens? We do not do these illegal things. And utacheki jo, anarudisha mpaka change.
Nazoea tu barabara sawa?
Nazoea? Mimi ndio mgeni kwangu. Sasa mimi hapa ndio bebe wako pikipiki niko na miaka 3 hapa. Sawa?
Sawa tu. So utazoeana na sisi tu.
Mimi.
So hii place ile ni bamba sana. Utazoeana na sisi. So at some point umse alikuwa na record ends up asking Joel Konateta like why he needs to be corrupt. And she actually told him enda kwa vigilance house. Sio tusikize.
So utazoeana na sisi tu.
Mimi
Inabidi uzoeane tu na sisi.
Haiwezi.
Huwezi zoeana na sisi.
Sisi kwa ikipigia hesabu ya nilitoa traffic hapa.
Kuna wengi walifanya hivi.
So itabidi aje either traffic wapangani waondokee hapa, iko ni traffic wapangani watukula pesa. Na wewe baki ni yeye.
Itabidi uende vigilance useme hivyo, sawa?
Damn. Itabidi uende vigilance useme hivyo. Kama hujui vigilance ni wapi, of course that's where the police headquarters is. And mother aliambia tu iraya jo itabidi uende vigilance jo. Kwa nashindwa what's the equivalent of that is kama ile time raya kujaga iko nini inaanza kunipatia sheria, usipofanya hivi nitafanya hivi. Afu naambia jo buda mimi na wewe tunaweza patana place inaitwa Kaji. hiyo ndio the equivalent of umadha kusema enda vigilance, like kitulini tu ni vile hiyo part ya kurudisha change I was just too much hiyo part ya kurudisha change, but it's the society we built. I always say that I actually don't blame people for thriving in it, because we did this, najua, and so now we are suffering the consequences of doing this. And talking about the consequences, there are things that muwana, and I don't know, I don't think I'm happy about this, but I'm also not sad about this. And what am I talking about? This is one of the news that Nelly report during the heat of the Tanzania elections, and when everything was going haywire. What happened was kulikuwa na stories that kuna udem anaitwa Shilole. Shilole is one of the celebrities uko Tanzania. So Shilole inasemekana biashara yake ilienda pikibaniwa. So now if you are to go to her Instagram account, ukitaka kujua vile watu wajuagi ku read the room, you'll see that she has 11 million followers. A lot of these followers are Tanzanians. Yes. So utanotice you gonna 11 million followers. So these people are Tanzanians. What have Tanzanians just gone through? They've gone through such a rough patch, and a lot of them have died. Courtesy of who? Samia. Who does Shilole have as her profile picture? Bado ni Samia. Alafu sasa kuna video where she shows what happened to her business. So you can see the camera in a move, alafu you can see. But sasa wacha niione bila liandika ujumbe wangu kwa taifa, then akaandika salam. Kwanza nitoe pole za dhati kwa wote waliofikwa na msiba, majeraha au hasara kutokana na vurugu zilizotokea. Kurudishiana maumivu si utu wala si msingi wa taifa letu. Tofauti za kisiasa hazitufanyi tuache kuwa jamii moja, kwani kabla ya itikadi sisi ni binadamu na ni wa Tanzania. Mimi ni mhanga wa fujo hizo. I'm guessing that mimi ni victim. Na ofisi yangu imechomwa na mali zangu zimeteketea. Wapo wanaonekana kufurahia wakidai nilistahili kwa sababu ya msimamo wangu wa kisiasa. Lakini ukweli ni huu. Sijawahi kumtukana mtu, sijawahi kumdhuru mtu, nimekuwa mtu muumini wa siasa ninayoiamini kupitia chama changu CCM. Anasema this straight after seeing the amount of bodies that were littered on the streets. Bado anasema hivi. Then akaendelea. Lakini je, wasio na chama waliumizwaje? Nani anawatetea? Hili linaonesha wazi kuwa fujo hazitofautishi bali ni uharibifu usio na mantiki. Damn. Uharibifu usio na mantiki. Kwa hivyo wakati huu si muda wa kutafutana mchawi wala kushindana kutupiana lawama, ni wakati wa busara. Na wabariki na kuwasamehe wote waliohusika katika uharibifu wa biashara yangu, huku wakiwa wamedhamiria kunirudisha nyuma. Kile naweza sema, udem, I don't think her having the picture of Samia is by accident. She knows, even her doing this message, because this message is only going to provoke Tanzanians. I think when she does this, she knows that somehow those government apologists, while they lose property, somehow the government is going to compensate them. Using what? Tanzania taxpayers' money. That's going to happen. So, wacha tuendelee. Kaendelea, mimi kwamba, muhimu ni kwamba Mwenyezi Mungu ameendelea kuniruzuku uhai. Basi ninaamini mali zinaweza kurejeshwa kwa juhudi na kupambana pasipo kukata tamaa. Lakini pumzi ya uhai haina mbadala. Alhamdulillahi. And this is what happens. Kuna hii fala inaitwa Salt Bay. Ilikuwa like one of the biggest restaurant whatever. Na hiyo chain ilianguka. Ude, for her business to come back, even if the government ends up making it, for her business to come back, it needs customers. And customers have to understand that you do not only protest through destruction. You can protest also through staying away. So yes, akisha repair, just stay away. Because nikiangalia this message, and this is the reason why muaga na shida na hii, the way we use Mwenyezi Mungu here in Africa. Because we use it to justify. Like if you looked at the amount of bodies on the streets that is said, and you think that your God is happy with that, then your God is not worth worshipping. Najua. So but tuendelee. Naiombea nchi yangu, namwombea rais wangu Mama Samia pamoja na serikali yake katika kuendeleza awamu ya 6 katika kipindi chake cha pili. Kwani nina amani kuwa huu ni wakati wa kuimarisha umoja na upendo wa taifa letu. Ni muhimu sana tukawaunga mkono viongozi wetu. Okay, mimi sitarudi nyuma katu. Nitaendelea kuamini, kutetea na kusimama na imani safi ya chama changu CCM. Licha ya majaribu, vitisho na hasara niliyopata. Hajali juu ya the deaths. The deaths mean nothing. Then akaendelea, ninashauri tusimamie katika nguzo ya hekima, maridhiano, uvumilivu na utatuzi wa hoja bila fujo. Kwa walionijulia hali baada ya kuzushiwa kifo, poleni kwa namna mlivyojisikia baada ya habari zile. Asanteni kwa kujali. Mali zilizopotea ni hasara kubwa sana na nimeumia, ila haziwezi kuwa na thamani kuliko uzima huu Mungu alionipa. Alhamdulillah. Tuchague amani, tuchague umoja, tuchague busara. Mungu ibariki Tanzania. Then ukachikifala inaitwa Rivaniko strong. Sijui fala kabado naifollow. Mimi najua ndiko one of those people wali unfollow Diamond haraka tetu unfollow ifala jo. Fala za TZ zimenikatia kabisa. I understand, I also don't understand. E-message, it's one of those things inafaa kuwa treated as an intrusive thought. This was not the right time to post it. Tanzanians are still grieving. They're still bleeding. They're still afraid kabisa. You do not post this, and as you post this, you keep reminding them of CCM this, CCM that. CCM did this to everyone. If CCM gave a free and fair elections, hakungekuwa na history yote. Unajua so sawigi, like all this burning and looting stuff were the courtesy of people feeling some form of injustice. And that's why I think when the first time that the news came out and ilikuwa ni inasemekana that people were burning and looting, who did I quote? I ended up quoting Bob Marley. Alafu ilikuwa ni let me quote Bob tena. This morning I woke up in a curfew. Oh God, I was a prisoner too. Could not recognize the faces standing over me. They were all dressed in uniforms of brutality. Who are we talking about? The police. Remember the 29th of October? They were dressed in uniforms of brutality. There was just everywhere they were. Alafu ni how many rivers do we have to cross before we can talk to the boss? All that we got, it seems we have lost. But we must have already paid the cost. That's why we're gonna be burning and looting tonight. Tanzanians felt like they'd paid the cost for democracy. But Samia told them that you've not paid the cost. You're still not a democracy. And what ended up happening? They ended up burning and looting. Was it the right thing to do? Not necessarily. Is it understandable that they did it? Yes. Why? Because that's how anger works. Anger is irrational. And it's not just anger coming from outer space. This is anger that's pegged on the fact that they feel like they do not have a choice. They feel like they are being forced. And this government is forcing themselves on them. So every 5 years, they do these sham elections that cost billions. These billions could be used to do other things. Just ban the elections and rule forever. But you decide you're not banning the elections. You're going to run these elections. And anyone who questions you, mnawadedisha. And then the people react violently. Alafu mko hapo mnajishika. Why did they react violently? So yes, another opportunity for me kukuambia. Najua umetegeza playlist, na hiyo playlist kuna ngoma kadhaa za bongo. Acha upuzi. Mafala za bongo utegezaga dog mob sana kutoka Kenya. The only way we can stand with the Tanzanian people is by affecting their pockets. Najua, what is happening in Tanzania, as I keep saying, I've seen horror movies in Kenya, but even me mwenyewe niko, I didn't know there was this level. So, I even saw Uganda, like in 2021. Wanaga ile time Ruto alianza kututishia atatushoot miguu. That was a Museveni idea, because in 2021, Ugandans walikuwa nashutiwa miguu. I remember that. I always cover. Like if you come to East Africa, I'm always very invested in what's happening in other countries. And I remember that Uganda, they were shooting to maim. And when Ruto said it, I was there like, okay, you've been talking to Museveni. So here at TZ, one of the ways we can do it is I know you want to shake your ass, but right now Kenya has so many bangers that there is actually no reason for you to go to Tanzania. Mi saizi naweza sema I'm very comfortable. I don't think ni mwaka nikiamua sisikizi ngoma yote ya TZ, I'll still be very, very, very okay. Why? Because these people are rich, and even with the amount of wealth that they have, they still stand for nothing. Najua there is a certain level of wealth ukikuwa nayo, at least you can talk. Najua like Diamond saizi angebonga, niko sure iko na do mingi outside TZ, anza bonga. Wasafi FM itaenda, but if you have it, it's coming at what cost? And pia wasa TZ wale bado watakuwa kitune into that Wasafi FM shit. Let them get ads from the corrupt government that they've installed there. You wenyewe support anything else. Although the TZ media was so bad, pia clouds, I know there's that level of fear that's there in TZ. So yeah, I remember nikiona, I think when DW Swahili, so DW Swahili walikuwa nabonga juu vile normalcy inarudi back to Tanzania. And yeah, I understand. At some point, people give up and people go back to normal. That's just the way life works. At some point, you see, like, no matter what we do, there's nothing that's going to change. Why? Because the governments have the monopoly of violence. And this is something that a lot of Kenyans learned in 2024, that the governments have monopoly. And also for Kenya, another thing that people learned was all these stories of it's the protesters causing the damage. Also, Leona, how it used to work. Because Kenya, I'm really looking forward to this Kuntakana Sonko, and I don't know if he'll open up about this, but I remember when Sonko was really mad at Uhuru, alikuwa nasema the way walikuwa na ban magari kama amevaa vitu za ODM just to make sure that Raila looks bad. That's only cheki Uhuru akiwa pale, Raila was a patriot, was a what? Because everything that's happening in TZ, we've seen in Kenya. The only thing we've not seen is that level of violence. Like, Kenyan police are violent, but damn, I'm actually hoping hizi mafala zikuona what happened in TZ, because the amount of, because Zimona, it happened in TZ and she got away with it. So now I'm wondering, are these assholes going to do that to us in Kenya? Kuta watu watakuwa like, oh, they can't do it. Yes, they can do it. And if they do it, they'll get away with it. You know why? Because all of us have a threshold of how much pain and destruction we can see. And at some point you see and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to be a victim. So let me just lick my wounds and live to fight another day. And this happens, and it happens, and it happens, and it happens. And it's been happening. A lot of African leaders rule because of violence and the amount of violence that they are ready to unleash on their citizens. And that's a fact. And yeah, will things change? I don't know, man. I actually don't know. I always lie to myself that one day we'll have a patriot, we'll have just someone who loves the country, and that person is going to come out and strengthen institutions. And what people don't realize, what a lot of people are nagging it, the fact that PSCC wenyewe, we never tasted freedom, and then we tasted it and we loved it. The day that we taste independent institutions, where the police is independent from the executive, and the executive is independent from the legislative arm, it's going to be crazy. The legislative independent from the judiciary independent from, it's going to be crazy. And we will never want to go back. And you know what it's going to take? It's going to take a president. For a president to come and be like, you know what, police, you're not here to protect me. If these people want to protest, as long as they don't destroy things, let them protest. If they feel I'm not the right guy for them, so let them get there. And people will be reasonable. If you're doing your job, I don't think anyone can just wake up and you're doing your job and decide to go protest in the streets. People protest because there's something that's making them unhappy. No one just wakes up and is like, I'm tired of this corruption and there's no corruption. there is corruption and there is lack of opportunities. And the only answer that most African leaders have is the bullet. And people want to use the ballot. Tukitaka kutumia ballot, mnaijaza nyewe, alafu sisi mnatupatia risasi. And the cycle continues. Hopefully, hatutaona that level hapa Kenya. Hopefully. Iko Nini.